My research, if you would have asked me then if I think there is really a planet X, I would have said no. But if you ask me now, my answer will be yes. I believe there is a Nibiru in our solar system. Let me show you why. Originally, I didn't see how a huge planet, 4 times the size of Jupiter, can exist in our solar system without us knowing. But that is before I learned about TNO. Before I did extensive research on ancient prophecies, which, believe it or not, collaborated somehow. Let me put it this way. You may not recognize Nibiru when it comes, and the visit may be different from what you expected, but believe me, there is a Nibiru out there in our solar system. For people who are new to this Planet X Nibiru theory, let me give you a quick tour. According to the ancient Sumerians, the 10th planet Nibiru is on a highly elliptic 3,600-year orbit. It is called the Destroyer Planet, as when it comes, it will bring destruction and possibly the Doomsday. Wait, if Doomsday comes every 3,600 years, how come we're still here? Think about it this way. Many comets pass by our sun regularly. How many of them hit planets? The last and only one I remember was the Shoemaker-Levy 9 hitting Jupiter in July 1994. So maybe Nibiru's last flyby was harmless last time. But we may not be likely so lucky next time? Before jumping to any conclusions we cannot sustain, let me bring you another popular Nibiru theory. The planet Nibiru of Nemesis. Nemesis is supposedly our sun's brown dwarf twin. The theory was first introduced in 1984, largely based on the Earth's mass extension 26 million years cycle. An evil twin 1.5 light years away, hidden beyond the Oort cloud, would be a perfect suspect. If Nibiru is a planet of Nemesis, it could explain how its occupants survived 3,600 years without a sun. Nemesis is Nibiru's travel companion and its portable generator. When the theory was introduced in 1984, it made great sense, and at that time, scientists believed that most stars are binary. Obviously, our sun should not be an exception. However, scientists have determined that mass extinction happens more like every 50 million years. And 2 mass astronomical surveys, which ran from 1997 to 2001, failed to detect any brown dwarf in our solar system. While in 2011, NASA's David Morrison, who specializes in near-Earth objects, concluded that even with infrared telescopes able to detect brown dwarfs as far away as 10 light years, failed to find Nemesis. It is most likely that Nemesis does not exist. Of course, that is if you believe in what NASA tells you. However, not finding any proof of Nibiru nor Nemesis does not mean they do not exist. Plus, how do you know if you were told the truth? What do you think the government should do if they think the world will end tomorrow? Obviously, telling you will not be on the top of the list. They will build a bunker and plan shelters for people that may survive the doomsday Earth. And to avoid chaos, it is wise not to share the doomsday news with anyone. Plus, who can know for certain what will happen, right? If you think the government will always do the right thing, let me tell you what Nostradamus thought about that. In Quatrain 227, quote, "The divine word will be struck from the sky, one who cannot proceed any further. The secret closed up with the revelation, such that they will march over and ahead." If you have any doubts about Nostradamus' prophecies, check out some of my Nostradamus videos. When I compared his quatrains with historical events, I was shocked to find the unbelievable details revealed. Check out any of my videos and you will be surprised. This quatrain is grouped with 20 other doomsday quatrains in the second part of the Book of Prophecy, which I call the Doomsday Century. This quatrain seems to indicate that our government would get warnings from the sky, which can be divine, or from aliens. The message warns us, do not proceed. It is a secret that will be kept from most of us. But the warnings were probably ignored, as the last sentence stated, quote, such that they will march over and ahead. Whatever the secret may be, it will be ignored, and we, mankind, will eventually face the consequences. So if Nemesis does not exist and Nibiru is only a theory, why should we waste any more time talking about it? Actually, I think Nibiru does exist. It may be different from the mythical planet where Anunnaki reside, but it is there. Let me show you the proof about Nibiru's existence. Consider this. If you think the theory about Nibiru's 3,600-year orbit around the Sun is crazy, did you know Mars orbits the Sun every 687 days, but is already considered outside the Goldilocks zone that could harbor lives? What is the chance of life on Nibiru if Nibiru does exist? Plus, what is the chance of having a planet having a 3,600-year orbit? The good old days when textbooks told you everything you needed to know is long gone. Now the more we know we don't know. For example, when you search on the planet Eris, what you see is that it is called the most massive and second largest dwarf planet known in the solar system. The word known means that we really don't know what we're talking about. Pluto and Eris both are known dwarf planets, and Tino, the so-called trans-Neptunian objects, those are minor planets with highly elliptical orbits. And if you search Wikipedia for trans-Neptunian object, a session called Putative Trans-Neptunian Objects of Planetary Size will jump out at you. It states, the existence of trans-Neptunian rock ice bodies of planetary size, ranging from less than Earth mass up to a brown dwarf, has been often postulated for different theoretical reasons to explain several observed or speculated features of the Kuiper Belt or the Oort cloud. It was recently proposed to use ranging data from the New Horizons spacecraft to constrain the position of such a hypothesized body. Putative means generally considered or reputed to be. Doesn't this sound like an endorsement from Wikipedia? I guess Nibiru is not all BS after all. Another reason I believe planet Nibiru is real is based on what scientists found in 2003. Sedna is a red dwarf planet 86 astronomical units away from the Sun, which is about 3 times as far as Neptune. Its discovery helped push poor Pluto off the planetary lineup. But what is important to know is its crazy orbit. Its aphelion, which is the closest distance from the Sun, is 76 AU, but its perihelion is 936 AU, and it takes 11,400 years to complete an orbit. During its 11,400-year journey around the Sun, we can only get a glance when it is near us. So, can you imagine how many more planets we have not seen? Can you imagine how big the others may be? Sedna's discovery proves Nibiru is not a myth. And then we found in 2014 FE72. It is another trans-Neptunian object, but this one has an orbit period of 90,000 years, with a perihelion of 36.3 AU and an aphelion of 4,000 AU. This really pushes our solar system's boundaries far beyond our imagination. Then the big question is, why would life choose to grow on a planet so far away from the Sun? Well, I guess we don't get to pick our birthplace, right? We have to adapt to our environment, correct? Plus, life may have started on a beautiful, friendly planet till the planet changed. For that, I will share with you another story we are all quite familiar with, the Shoemaker Levy 9. Did you know before Shoemaker-Levy 9's impact with Jupiter, it was not orbiting the Sun? That is a fact few people know. The comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 was orbiting Jupiter before it got dangerously close and crashed. 2 years before impact, Shoemaker-Levy 9 was orbiting the Sun. A wrong place at the wrong time changed the comet's path and destiny. So, an advanced civilization may have been flourishing on Nibiru before the planet changed its course. Or maybe Nibiru was pulled away by another star. Maybe it is our Sun's binary twin. Its advanced technology made it possible to cope with whatever harsh environment, and its residents refused to leave home. Scientists feel the chance of our Sun having a twin star is slim. But what gravity forces keep these minor planets circling our Sun and something else on these elliptical orbits? There must be another massive body on the other end. Remember, we can only see them when they are close to us. Can you imagine how many more are out there that we have not seen? If the Earth has survived till today, why should we worry? Even if there are 1 million Nibirus out there, they probably won't come closer than Pluto, right? That may be right, but since we know so little, we have to rely on people who know more, and that is the problem. We have found so many new planets and new stars. Who will know what the next discovery may be?
Most people aren't aware of it, but there was a scientific storm in America all through the late 50s about this thing out there in space because the astronomers were all watching it, and that was back when they weren't afraid to talk about it. I believe that instead of having dirt on it like our planet does and water, I think this thing is just a big, bright reddish-orange iron ball because it's giving off all this red iron oxide dust out into the atmosphere. When we thought at first it was just a teeny little red speck of fuzzy red dust in the distance, but over the years as it went by and we watched it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, about 2008, we could see this thing like it was across the street. And we could see that it was a blazing hot ball of fire giving out sparkles of red iron oxide dust for thousands of miles in every direction.
Just when you thought there could not be more change going on in the world, magnetic north is moving. Aviators know it has always moved, but not like this. It's just skipping along. It's on the move about 40 miles a year now along the polar cap toward Russia.
According to what I was told, is that this thing is approximately 47,000 miles in diameter, 4 or 5 times the size of the Earth, and it'll come past us, and we won't have a lot of warning, and we won't get to see it in the sky until it's on us. I think the NASA timeline is completely off. I think this thing is going to arrive much earlier than they say it is. we were looking at asteroids. Right close to this thing, there's asteroids that are floating around right near that are orbiting the main sun itself. These things appear to be about 500 miles across. And as you go back into the tail, you get into meteorites that go back for millions of miles in the tail. This thing looks like a giant red teardrop-shaped dust cloud, and you can see if you're able to see it up close like we did, you can see every speck out there. I guarantee you there's trillions of meteorites following this thing. It's sending all of this red iron oxide dust out into space around it,
right.
And it's got this enormous, and I mean enormous, at least 50 or 100,000 miles on each side of it, this red dust cloud that goes all the way around it. I know when we were watching it, as it started to make the upward swing to approach behind our sun, it was amazing. The red dust cloud settled down. Instead of being round, it started to settle down into a V, like wings, upside down wings.
Right.
And I thought, boy, I wonder if that's where the ancient Sumerians got the idea this thing had wings. Now, these CIA people that I know say that we're not going to be that close to it when it goes past us. They're saying that in order to attain breakaway speed, when it comes up around the backside of the sun, its speed will at least double, possibly more, which will put it here earlier than everybody is saying it will, and that this thing will probably be about 20 million miles from us when it crosses in front of us, and then as soon as...
What's up, guys? NASA is saying that we could possibly have a magnetic pole shift very soon. It was within the next 1,000 years and possibly within the next 100 years. And maybe this is also coming from Never a Straight Answer, your beloved NASA. But maybe they're actually giving us a little bit of truth for once. Maybe there is something with this magnetic pole shift, and there's been a lot of talk with this the past several years. But what has been happening big really the past couple of years, animals, birds, a lot of strange things with them, their patterns, and a lot of strange animal die-offs with whales, fish, birds just falling out of the sky, and on top of strange noises in the sky, these booms. A lot of reports across the world hearing these strange booms and noises in the sky. Maybe this has something to do with the magnetic poles. So maybe NASA is actually onto something here for once. But there are growing fears that weakening of the Earth's magnetic field and reversal of magnetic poles could have catastrophic consequences for humanity. Some reports believe that magnetic pole shifts in the past triggered mass extinctions, including extinction of Neanderthals. And scientific researchers say there is evidence that the Earth's magnetic field has weakened significantly in the past 160 years, and that neutralization of the magnetic field and flipping of magnetic poles could occur in less than 1,000 years, or as early as the next 100 years. Weakening of the Earth's magnetic field caused by a gradual reversal realignment of iron atoms in the Earth's liquid outer core will lead to a reversal or flipping of the Earth's magnetic poles so that compasses point to the south instead of the north. When the polar shift happens, the Earth will have no magnetic field for about 200 years. So they're saying that if the reversal of the poles, magnetic poles, they flip, there won't be any magnetic field for 200 years. And that will be increase in skin cancers. Weakening the Earth's magnetic field could have serious consequences for life on Earth because the magnetic field acts as a shield that prevents dangerous solar radiation from passing to the atmosphere. And they go on to state that when its magnetic field is neutralized, the Earth will lose its ability to shield its atmosphere from direct exposure to dangerous solar radiation for up to 200 years, leaving humanity and life on Earth exposed to harmful radiation from the sun, including solar flares and coronal mass ejections. And, quote, even if the field becomes very weak at the Earth's surface, we are shielded from radiation by the atmosphere, according to Corte. Similarly, as we cannot see or feel the presence of the geomagnetic field now, we most likely would not notice any significant change from reversal. So they're saying that you won't notice anything from reversal except for a bunch of blisters and solar radiation and cancers and things like that. That's really the only thing you're going to notice. But that's about it for this time. Reporting to you from my lunch break at work this weekend. And just let me know what you think in the comments below. Is NASA onto something? Is this the magnetic pole shift, is it weakening? Is that one reason why there has been a lot of strange animal die-offs with birds, fish, whales, and also is the magnetic field, is it weakening because a lot of these strange...
Well, we still don't know, but there has been a really interesting paper published very recently in August of 2016 that actually gives us a very interesting evidence for the existence of Planet 9 that we have never considered. In today's video, we're going to discuss it, and I'm going to explain to you what's going on. Now, if you still haven't subscribed, don't forget to click that subscribe button because there's so many more videos coming in the future. Welcome to What the Math. So we're going to be using Universe Sandbox 2, and I'm going to actually show you a very realistic representation, or I guess a little bit of evidence for why we now think Planet 9 is even more likely to exist. This is actually coming from, I believe it's actually a one-person paper, or one person that actually discovered this evidence, and this person's name is Dong Lai, and it's a researcher at Cornell University in the Department of Astronomy that actually published very short, very sweet, very beautiful paper filled with math that I'm not going to discuss in this video because it's actually really complex and it would require quite a long analysis actually, but the paper is beautiful. And what it says is this. I'm going to actually go into different simulation here. It says something really simple. It's basically looks at all of the planets in our system. It looks at Mercury, it looks at Venus, and it looks at a lot of the outer ice giants, especially Uranus and Neptune. And it only really considers one simple fact. It considers something known as inclination right here. What does inclination refer to? Well, the best way to explain it is to visualize it. Inclination is this. It basically shows us the position, or I guess not position, but the angle that the orbit forms with all other orbits, with the so-called plane of orbital alignment, that is, compared to the other planets. Now, so if I actually go back here, for most planets, it's not very large. For Mercury, it's actually pretty big. It's about 7 degrees. For Venus, it's about 3.4 degrees. Earth has an inclination of very small inclination of 0.002. Mars has 1.8 degrees. We're not going to look at Vesta and Ceres because they're not planets. Jupiter, even Jupiter has a bit of inclination of 1.3 degrees. Saturn with 2.5. Uranus with 0.7. And Neptune with 1.7 or almost 1.8 degrees. So every single planet in our solar system is a little bit inclined. None of them are perfectly aligned with the plane of orbit. In other words, they're all just a little bit misaligned, and they're all a little bit misaligned into one direction, the direction of this, up. Now, so that's an interesting thing. It's an interesting observation, something that nobody has really considered, or at least nobody has really analyzed in detail. And these planets are obviously very massive. Like Jupiter is super massive. So for something to dislodge it by 1.3 degrees, something really interesting must be happening. Now, here's what this person did. This person by the name of Dong Lai decided to analyze or come up with a very interesting formula using trigonometry and using all kinds of super complex, but I guess relatively simple in astronomical terms calculations. And this person discovered something. He discovered, and I hope it's a he, or possibly she, but anyway, this person discovered the following. He or she discovered that in order for all of these planets to have this kind of inclination, there must be something going on in the outer solar system. And then this researcher made a small assumption. He or she made an assumption that Planet 9 is orbiting in a very specific sort of way, with an orbital radius, or so-called semi-major axis, of about 340 to about 480 astronomical units. Here it's, I believe, a little bit more, it's about 500, with a relatively highly inclined plane, and obviously with somewhat high eccentricity of anywhere between 0.2 to about 0.6. The researcher actually analyzed various possibilities, graphed them, and displayed them in the paper, showing that if you actually have something like Planet 9 orbiting here, and if you have our planets orbiting in a regular sort of pattern, without any inclination, without any eccentricity at first, with time, after billions of years, they actually do acquire the inclination that is present here. Maybe not exactly that inclination, but almost exactly what you see here. And interestingly, I actually decided to try this myself using the Universe Sandbox, but it obviously would require billions of years. So what did I do? Well, of course, I set up a little miniature system, kind of something similar to what I'm about to show you. I basically put, and you of course are more than welcome to try this yourself if you have the game. I put the sun in the middle, then I moved out to the outer solar system, and I believe it was Jupiter actually. I put Jupiter at a distance of about 5 astronomical units, and then I put Neptune at a distance of about, I think it was about 25 or 20 astronomical units. Made sure that their actual eccentricity and inclination were 0. I made sure that this was 0. And then what I did was I added another relatively large object, and I think here I actually just use Uranus because it is a little bit more massive than hypothetical Planet 9, but I just didn't want to create a new system using completely brand new Planet 9, so I just put Uranus. I put Uranus at a distance of about 340 or 350 astronomical units, but I also gave it eccentricity of about 0.2 or 0.3 and inclination of about 35 degrees. So I did that. And then I let it spin, and I left, or actually I didn't leave, I went to bed. This was an overnight project. I went to bed, and then I woke up. Now, interestingly, you can probably guess that something happened, and I'm going to show you what did. So we're going to go into my simulation that's sort of like already 1.5 million years old, because here you can see this is only 1 year old. And so 1.51 million years later, with the Uranus orbiting in a kind of a Planet 9-like fashion, and Neptune and Jupiter right there, this is what I've detected. I've detected both eccentricity and a little bit of inclination. 0.007 and also 0.007. I kind of realized that if I keep running the simulation for many more millions and billions of years, this is very likely going to change, and very likely is going to become possibly higher. And at some point, they are going to achieve a kind of a resonance, or possibly a kind of a balance, where this inclination will no longer change as much for either one of these objects. Now, this was really, really cool. I did not expect this to happen. I actually thought the paper, might be not particularly accurate, or maybe this was a far-fetched sort of a hypothesis. But you know what? This totally makes sense. So this is a relatively massive object, but it is very far away. So it's not going to influence these planets very, very quickly. It's going to influence them over millions and billions of years. And it totally did. And these objects obviously have a lot more effect on each other, but because they have a relatively similar plane, they are not really going to influence inclination. So there's only one explanation to why inclination is different, and this is right here. This Uranus that really should be called Planet 9. Now, I may actually run this a few more nights, or I think you should definitely try this yourself so you can actually see the effects by yourself. But this is a brilliant explanation. I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't heard from anyone about this yet, because this would really be the obvious thing to look for. But this researcher from Cornell University by the name of Don Lai may have actually hit a jackpot in the one of the more obvious explanations, or I guess evidences, for the existence of Planet 9 somewhere out there 300 to maybe 500 astronomical units away, orbiting in a very highly inclined and very highly eccentric orbit around our sun. This is possibly why The inclination is present in every single planet in our solar system. And this is actually, I remember now, this is one of the questions I asked my teacher a long time ago when I was really little and I studied planets and space sciences. And I actually asked, so, why is it that, some things are inclined? And I believe until now the answer was that, nothing is perfect in the solar system. When the planets are forming, something may have dislodged them. But this never really satisfied me because there is absolutely no reason for such an inclination to exist anywhere with some of the bigger planets like, for example, Saturn and Jupiter, because they're massive enough to not be dislodged by collisions. But something did dislodge them, something did create this inclination of 1.3 and 2.5 degrees, and that something is the mysterious object known as Planet 9 orbiting somewhere out there with a very funny, very interesting orbit that you can see right here. And anyway, so that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I thought it was a pretty interesting discovery. I thought it was a pretty interesting paper. You can definitely check out the paper itself in the description below. It might be difficult to read, but you may just go through the introduction and then the conclusion just to get the gist of it. But yeah, so maybe, just maybe, we have more evidence and we'll be able to find Planet 9 a lot easier now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Share this video if you've actually enjoyed watching it. Subscribe if you still haven't. Like this video if you actually learned something. And don't forget to actually be a subscriber because there's a lot more videos coming in the future. If you enjoy this channel, don't forget that you can also support us on Patreon and help me purchase better camera sometime this year, hopefully. I'll see you guys in the next video. Game you later. And as always, bye-bye. And Planet 9, we're going to find you. Hopefully this year, but if not, maybe next year. Hopefully, basically before I die, because I want to see you, okay? Cool. Stay wonderful, wonderful people, and watch the space. And also look at these wobbly orbits. Why are they wobbly? Well, we'll possibly talk about this in the future.
Massive cloud on collision course with the Milky Way. Presented by Science at NASA. In 1963, an astronomy student named Gail Smith, working at an observatory in the Netherlands, discovered something odd. A massive cloud of gas orbiting the Milky Way galaxy. Smith's cloud contained enough gas to make 2 million stars, the size of our own sun, and it was moving through space at 700,000 miles per hour. For the next 40-plus years, the cloud remained a curiosity. One of a growing number of so-called high-velocity clouds circling the Milky Way. Interesting, but not sensational. Then something changed. In the mid-2000s, radio astronomer Jay Lockman and colleagues took a closer look at Smith's cloud using a Green Bank radio telescope in West Virginia, and they were able to calculate the cloud's orbit. Smith's cloud, it turns out, is on a collision course with the Milky Way. 30 million years from now, give or take a few million years, it will crash into the Perseus arm of our galaxy. The impact will compress clouds of gas in that spiral arm, causing a brilliant burst of star formation. There's no real danger to the Milky Way. Smith's cloud is minuscule compared to the gigantic spiral of stars that make up the backbone of our galaxy. But the coming collision has sharply increased interest in Smith's cloud. Andrew Fox of the Space Telescope Science Institute says, "We don't fully understand the Smith's cloud's origin. There are 2 leading theories. One is that it was blown out of the Milky Way, perhaps by a cluster of supernova explosions. The other is that the Smith cloud is an extragalactic object that has been captured by the Milky Way." To investigate these theories, Fox and colleagues recently peered into the cloud using the Hubble Space Telescope's Cosmic Origin Spectrograph. One of the elements they found was sulfur, absorbing ultraviolet light from the bright cores of 3 galaxies far beyond the cloud. By analyzing the amount of light Smith's cloud absorbs, the astronomers were able to measure the abundance of sulfur in the cloud. Fox says, the abundance of sulfur in Smith's cloud is similar to the abundance of sulfur in the outer disk of our own Milky Way. This means we have a family relationship. He says the cloud appears to have been ejected from within the Milky Way and is now falling back. The cloud is fragmenting and evaporating as it plows through a halo of diffuse gas surrounding our galaxy. It's basically falling apart. This means that not all of the material in Smith's cloud will survive to form new stars. But if it does survive, or some part of it does, It should produce an impressive burst of star formation. While Fox's work has cleared up some of the mystery of the Smith cloud, many questions remain. What calamitous event could have catapulted it from the Milky Way's disk, and how did it remain intact? These are questions for future research.